The Story of Ruth, chapters 1-4. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. A man from Bethlehem, Elimelech, took his wife Naomi and their 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, to the country of Moab to escape the hunger. Unfortunately, while they were in Moab, Elimelech died, leaving Naomi a widow in a foreign land. Despite her sorrow, Naomi continued to care for her sons, who eventually married Moabite women named Ruth and Orpah. For about 10 years, the family lived in Moab, but then more heartache came. Both of Naomi's sons died, leaving her alone with her daughters-in-law. In her grief, Naomi felt the weight of her losses and decided to return to Bethlehem. After hearing that the Lord had provided food for his people, she prepared to leave Moab, urging Ruth and Orpah to stay behind and find new husbands. As Naomi set out on her journey, she encouraged her daughters-in-law to remain in Moab. Orpah, though heartbroken, eventually agreed and kissed Naomi goodbye. But Ruth clung to her mother-in-law, refusing to leave her side. With a heart full of loyalty and determination, Ruth declared, "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." This profound commitment marked the beginning of a deep bond between Naomi and Ruth. When Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, the townspeople were stirred by their return. The women of the town exclaimed, "Is this Naomi?" Naomi, feeling bitter about her losses, replied, "Call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty." Despite her sorrow, Naomi was back in her homeland, where she hoped to find solace. To provide for themselves, Ruth took the initiative to glean in the fields. A practice allowed for the poor to collect leftover grain after the harvest. She set out to find a field where she could work. And by divine providence, she ended up in the field of Boaz, a wealthy relative of Naomi's late husband. Boaz was known for his kindness and generosity, and he soon noticed Ruth working in his fields. Boaz approached Ruth and asked her who she was. When he learned that she was Naomi's daughter-in-law and had come back to care for her, he was impressed by her dedication. He instructed his workers to treat her kindly, allowing her to glean freely and providing her with extra food. Ruth was grateful for Boaz's generosity and returned to Naomi with a bounty of grain, sharing the news of her day in the fields. Naomi was overjoyed to hear about Boaz and recognized him as a kinsman-redeemer, a relative who had the right to marry Ruth and preserve the family line. She saw this as a glimmer of hope for their future. Naomi devised a plan for Ruth to approach Boaz at the threshing floor after he had eaten and drunk. She instructed Ruth to wait until Boaz had finished his meal and then to uncover his feet and lie down, a gesture of seeking his protection and asking him to redeem her. That night, Ruth followed Naomi's instructions. After Boaz had eaten and drunk, he lay down to sleep at the threshing floor. Ruth quietly approached and covered his feet and lay down. In the middle of the night, Boaz awoke and was surprised to find a woman at his feet. When he learned that it was Ruth, he was moved by her loyalty and courage. Ruth asked him to spread his cloak over her, signifying her request for him to be her protector and redeemer. Boaz was touched by Ruth's actions, noting that she had chosen to seek him, a man of standing rather than younger men. He promised to take action, but informed her that there was a closer relative who had the first right to redeem Naomi's family line. Boaz assured Ruth that he would resolve the matter. The next day, Boaz went to the town gate where legal matters were settled. He found the closer relative and gathered 10 elders of the city to witness the proceedings. Boaz presented the opportunity to redeem Naomi's land, explaining that the relative could restore the family line. The man agreed at first, but when Boaz mentioned that he would also have to marry Ruth, the Moabite woman, he declined, fearing it would jeopardize his own inheritance. With the closer relative's refusal, Boaz declared his intention to marry. Ruth, the elders, and the people at the gate blessed their union, saying, "May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the house of Israel." Boaz took Ruth as his wife, and the Lord enabled her to conceive, giving birth to a son named Obed. Naomi's joy was restored as she held her grandson, and the women of the town praised the Lord, saying, "A son has been born to Naomi." They recognized Obed as a blessing, and he would later become the grandfather of King David. Thus, the story of Ruth is not just one of loyalty and love, but also of redemption and hope. Ruth, a Moabite woman, became part of the lineage of David and ultimately of Jesus Christ, illustrating how faithfulness and devotion can lead to unexpected blessings and a significant legacy. Lessons from the story of Ruth. 1. Loyalty and commitment. Ruth's dedication to Naomi exemplifies the importance of loyalty in relationships. Her commitment teaches us to stand by loved ones through difficult times. 2. Faith and action. Ruth's proactive approach to gleaning in the fields shows that faith requires action. Trusting God means taking steps forward, even when the future is uncertain. 3. God's providence and redemption. Ruth's story illustrates how God can use anyone for his purposes. It reminds us that God is always at work, orchestrating events for our good, and we can trust in his plan for our lives. 4. Obedience and trust in guidance. Ruth's willingness to follow Naomi's advice demonstrates her obedience and trust. When Naomi instructs Ruth on how to approach Boaz, Ruth listens and acts accordingly. This teaches us the importance of being open to guidance from those we trust, especially in challenging situations. Obedience to wise counsel can lead to positive outcomes and blessings in our lives.